welcome to today's video. Today I am doing a video all about things that you can do after being a HCA. So in previous videos I've discussed about what it's like and the things that you might do and what to expect, but now in today's video we're looking at how you can go forward from there and how you can look at what career you can get out of your first job or any job as being a HCA. Where is the next step? So without further ado, let's get started. So you would start as a Band 2 HCA. In your first healthcare assistant job, you would be a HCA. Now, depending on your job role, whether you are a bank HCA or a standard employed HCA, would depend on your past experience. But any experience you've got is always really helpful, and I'm discussing a bit more about that in an upcoming video about interviews, so watch out for that one. I will link it in the description below and in the iCard when it's released. Another thing to think about is as a HCA, that is obviously in a healthcare profession. Now, if you're not interested in healthcare, the chances are going into a career in that is not going to be your bargain. So you want to find a job that is really exciting to you, and then of course you want to do the pro and con list and all those kind of things. Now, if you decide career in healthcare is exactly what you want to do, it is your bargain, it is your bucket and spade, then what can you do? Am I stuck as a HCA? Well, some people choose to stay as a HCA because they like not having the responsibility and they don't really need the money, or they're just quite confident and happy with their choice. And if that is you, that is absolutely fine. We do need HCAs, so if everybody wasn't one, then we'd have a big problem. But what if you want to progress? What if you want to go to the next level? In a previous video, which was also sponsored by healthjobs.co.uk, thank you so much for them again for sponsoring another video of mine in today's video. I showed you their website. I will link that video in the iCard and description box down below. And their website is basically an amazing place where you can find different jobs to do with healthcare. Hence the title. But what if you aren't searching for a HCA job? What if you want to know, what can I do after that? Well, there are choices. Let me get my trusty phone. So as a HCA, you'll be a Band 2, and a Band 2 will earn roughly 18 to 19,000. Generally, depending on your location. That is an England basic rate, excluding London. Wales and Scotland and Northern Ireland and other places in the world will be completely different. So if you're in England, that is kind of your pay band rate. As a HCA Band 2, you can quite easily progress up to a Band 3. A Band 3 is also known as an assistant practitioner. They are effectively more trained and qualified to do more things. And as a Band 3, you'll earn roughly 19 to 21,000 a year. So as you can see, you do earn more for the more experience you have and the more qualifications that you have too. On a completely kind of side of that, if you don't want to be a healthcare, you could also be a therapy technician. A therapy technician works with the therapy department, so physio, OT, speech and language. You will have a therapy technician who will be able to basically assist the qualified professionals there. That is a Band 3 position generally. You can have some Band 2, but they tend to be Band 3. Same pay rate, but a completely different job role. It does require elements of a HCA, so having that background is really helpful. And a lot of the people that I've worked with who are therapy technicians come from HCA background or similar. As a therapy technician, you're more likely to be doing things such as mobility, kitchen assessments. In the hospital, it's completely different to the community as well, and so this opens up the ballgame of I could work in the community and I don't just have to be in the hospital. So as you can tell, there is a completely different side of it, and some people really enjoy that career progression. Going up to band 4, now you could jump straight from a band 2 from a band 4. A band 4 nursing is generally where you've done something like an apprenticeship. So an apprenticeship in nursing is possible at the moment, and that would lead you to be a band 4. They can generally do what a lot of what nurses can do, but they can't do things like administer drugs, so medication rounds, and there's more of the sort of, you must really know your detail and things like that for that. But some of the things like enemas and putting in cannulas, changing dressings, a band 4 nursing assistant can do that. And that would be something that you do an apprenticeship for. A band 4 would generally earn between £21,000 and £24,000. If you chose, you could go from a band 2 HCA to being a fully qualified band 5 nurse. Now, to do this, you need to have a university degree at this current moment in time. You could also choose to retrain and actually leave the nursing and go into a different side of healthcare. So you could be an OT, like what I do. You could be a physio, a speech and language therapist, a radiographer working down in like CT scans and x-rays. You could work in like potentially in theatre doing some kind of surgical stuff. You wouldn't actually be doing the surgery, you'd be more likely cleaning and getting bits and bobs for the surgeon. But there's all sorts of career progressions around that sort of bit. You could be a midwife, which is slightly different to nursing but still similar, more than other jobs and professions. But as I said, for that you do have to have a university degree, which kind of does therefore limit the people that can do it. You have to have certain grades to do that. You have to be able to do a university degree and be quite prepared for the amount of time and effort that that's going to put into that. And the younger you are, generally the easier it is. It's a generalized statement though, please feel free to prove me wrong, but that's kind of the truth. A band 5 generally earns between £24,500 and £30,000. However, the big difference here is that is a massive difference in comparison to the other pay bands. That's because you progress as your years go through, and you become more qualified in your band 5 role. So there's quite a lot more, there's a massive scale difference, there's £5,000 difference, but it does depend on your experience and things like that. So as a newly qualified, you start on a roughly 24,500. Obviously then you go into a completely different ballgame, because I could keep going up, but that would be talking about like nursing specifically. And we're looking in this video about how you can go from a HCA to different career paths. But say you wanted to still work in the hospital and do something slightly different. Well, you could be a ward clerk or a discharge facilitator. They tend to be either around about a band 3, band 4 type role, depending on the severity. So a discharge facilitator in A&E tends to be a senior nurse. But on a ward, you could be a discharge facilitator. They are generally, as I said, 3 or 4-ish. So they'll earn roughly the 18k a year. They, as a discharge facilitator, will work with outside services, internal services, and basically plan the whole process of a patient going from hospital bed to bed at home or care centre or wherever. They'll make sure that all the professions are happy, and they won't send a patient without a specific profession being, yes, that's fine, you've got the go ahead, you've got the green tick. They have quite an intense role and will often have quite a lot of communication via phone with family, patients' friends, but also internally with the bed managers who know where all the bed spaces are in the hospital. Especially around Christmas, they'll have quite a lot of pressure, especially with COVID, to get people home, which can be, so it can be a really demanding and totally overwhelming role sometimes. So you have to be on it and on your feet to do that job role. So again, it depends if that's your kind of area or your interest, I guess is the word to say. A ward clerk, on the other hand, they tend to deal with the paperwork and the general maintenance of the ward. So if there was a problem with printer ink, they'd be the ones to ring. They'd be the ones to make sure that all the paperwork, all the notes got sent down to the right location for them to be filed and stored. They'd be the ones that would do all the administration, compile the paperwork when they first arrive from A&E or from a different ward, and they generally make sure that the place is organised and accurate, and this bed is this person, and all those people, all the notes relating to that person are in that bit, and there are no other patient notes in that bit. Really important role, one that often gets overlooked, and again, they earn about the 3 to 4, they're band 3 to 4, so roughly 18 to 19k. Now, obviously, the financial bit that I'm talking about is NHS pay bands, but as a HCA, you could go on to doing things in other locations. So you could go on to being a carer in a nursing or residential home. Now, their pay will be slightly different, but probably quite similar still. I wouldn't expect it to be lots more. They will be doing cares and everything that a HCA kind of does on the ward, but for people that live in permanent residential or nursing homes generally. You could potentially also work in community hospitals, intermediate care centres, so you wouldn't have to be in a big hospital to be doing a HCA role. You could also train to be a band 3 and work down in A&E, which often take things like ECGs, blood pressure, weights, heights of patients that are not emergency trauma people. So that's also a possibility if you felt like that was something that you wanted to do a bit more of. And you could also go into the private sector. The private sector is obviously completely different, but still very similar job role. But it kind of pays a bit more, but then you different perks. Also in the private sector, which people don't think of very often, is live-in carers. So some people decide they're going to join an agency and they will go and be a live-in carer. Now this is a role very specific to often taken by those that are from abroad or don't have family, because you are literally living with this elderly patient, elderly person, potentially elderly, doesn't have to be though, to help them, to be there at their beck and call night or day. It's a very demanding role and does get paid therefore slightly more. So that is something that is also an option, completely different to the hospital, but still rewarding in its own way. I'm going to link down below some pay grade information for you, and also the link to the Royal College of Nursing, Midwifery and Nursing. That specific page that I'm going to link has loads of information about how you can progress and all about apprenticeships and things like that. On healthjobs.co.uk there is actually a bit purposely about careers and all the information that you can find out on that page. There's videos by different people about their job roles and different things. Having a little scout, there's things such as what physiotherapy is like, how to change your career to become an occupational therapist, 5 things I wish I knew before becoming a paramedic. There is thousands of different videos and information on there about things that might be useful for you to have a little find out about before you potentially go and do a career change. Although it's not really a career change if you're progressing up, I personally don't think. Anyway, thank you so much for watching this video. Thank you once again to healthjobs.co.uk for sponsoring it, and I will see you guys in the next one. Bye!